very warm welcome to our panel Environment and Energy in this afternoon with valuable experts from 8 different countries and jurisdictions. And it's a great honor for me to be in this beautiful country, in this beautiful place here. And I'm really looking forward to our discussion in the afternoon. First of all, I will give a short introduction in the topic from an interdisciplinary perspective and a leadership focus. Welcome, Santiago. Before we continue with the experts' contributions and deep dive with the discussion. So because we have a lot of experts from various fields, we will have a very broad discussion, and so it's valuable to have the expertise of each of our panelists in this round. So, first of all, how we deal with nature has become the social issue of the 21st century. The consequences of climate change are devastating already today. On a supranational level, in 2015, 196 countries agreed in the Paris Agreement to hold the increase in the global average temperature to well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels and pursue efforts to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. To reach these goals, further sub-goals should be important, e.g. the decline of greenhouse gas emissions in the defined sequence. Efforts to reach the goals exist certainly of a small part of the countries, I would say. However, the compromise of the 2-degree goal alone would no longer be enough to stop the climate change. That's according to the current state of climate research. So, in fact, we need a further discussion to decrease it less than 1.5 degrees. And unfortunately, as we all know, the United States have withdrawn from the Climate Protection Agreement on the day of Trump's inauguration in January. We don't need to discuss it in this round, but it's the worst development we can have because the US has a role model in the world, as we know, unfortunately, in this case. Moreover, we have various factors that indicate an increasing demand for energy. First, a strongly increasing number of people on our planet. We are rapidly approaching 10 billion people in this planet. Second, the prosperity. And third, the progress of digitalization, IT and quantum computing. As a consequence, these developments mean an increase in energy demand in dimension we can calculate on a mathematical level, but we cannot even imagine on a human level. And we see the dependency from energy when we see the incidents in Spain or Portugal last week. In the big picture, on the one hand side, we have a clear goal, but on the other hand, we have completely contradictory developments in energy demand. Thus, we will have incredible challenges for climate protection. So, to foster climate protection, thus to stop climate change, massive innovations are needed very soon. However, incremental innovations are not enough. Radical and disruptive innovations are needed in order to keep the beauty of the nature of all the countries we are representing here and all of the planet we have. So we need innovations definitely very soon. The need for innovation is also recognized in a decision by the Federal Constitutional Court in Germany on the Climate Protection Act. The decision is from March 2021 and focuses on the need for innovation. So regarding innovations, I would like to highlight 3 aspects. Following Josef Schumpeter, an Austrian guy, he was living in the US 100 years ago, and he is a kind of pope for innovations. We understand innovations not to be just a good idea, but the realization of good ideas and radical, new, not just an evolution in the market that brings value to the organization. And in order to promote massive, radical and disruptive innovations, the legal framework can promote or prevent radical or disruptive innovations. Therefore, we need to discuss the questions: how do the legal frameworks need to be designed to promote radical or disruptive innovations to stop climate change? And innovations require innovation goals. Innovations and innovation goals do not come from the blue, but as the authors Zillner and Krusche from Innovation Research write, innovation requires leadership. One of the main tasks of leadership is to lead oneself and human communities with personality into an innovative, creative and sustainable future based on reasonable, responsible and ethical decisions. So leaders are not born, but leadership can be learned through education. Leadership education thus can be created on different levels. One important level is leadership education in higher education, which is also a development of personality from a humanistic perspective and approach. In leadership education in higher education, it's important to foster personality, thus leadership competencies, thus competencies on realization of real business projects, and this means to enable students via real-world projects to create and realize sustainable innovations. In a nutshell, leaders are not born, but are made. To achieve the climate goals, to achieve energy transition, we need the beauty of the countries to keep it. We need leadership personalities also in legal and in political and in business positions. Leaders who set and realize sustainable innovation goals, and we need political and business leaders who set and realize innovation goals. There is a need for leaders in legal positions very much who create legal frameworks that promote radical and disruptive innovations to create a better and sustainable future we all want to live in. So this is my first, impulse for the discussion of today, to have a broad overview about the need for legal leadership personalities and who are setting frameworks to foster radical and disruptive innovations. And now we will continue with the experts from all of our beautiful countries in the world. And we have really nice countries. It's Spain, it's Georgia, it's Venezuela, it's Romania, it's Brazil, it's the Dominican Republic and Ecuador. So we have really a lot of beautiful places. We want to keep the nature and the beauty of these wonderful countries. And I'm really looking forward to the impulses of our experts from these countries. And the first expert we have, because we are following the order of the program, we are listening to Rafael Fernando Feldmann from Brazil. He's partner at Cascione Advogados. And I'm really looking forward, Rafael, to your contribution.
Many thanks, Stefanie, for your brilliant presentation and for introducing all of us. It's a very, I'm very honored to be here. I'd like to congratulate all panelists, all the attendees, and also the World Jurist Association for inviting us for this beautiful Congress. I'm going to give you an overview on the energy mix in Brazil and the climate change law trend. I'll try to be very straightforward here, as we have like from 7 to 8 minutes for each panelist. So I really want to give you a straightforward approach, and just to give you in a nutshell what we are doing in terms of tackling climate change, what instruments we are using in Brazil, and what we can learn from other jurisdictions as well. I think that one of the most important factors regarding the energy mix in Brazil, that it's different from many other jurisdictions in the world, is the fact that we currently have I wouldn't say sustainable, but like the usage of renewable energy in Brazil is almost 0.5% of our energy mix already. That's a lot. I mean, we are like in a very advantaged stage, and also in terms of like the energy balance between renewable and non-renewable, we're one of the best positions in the world. And I suppose this is because the electricity, not the energy mix in Brazil, it's almost 92% provided from, especially from hydropower plants and also wind and solar. So the country at this moment, we have in terms of global emissions, just 1.83% of our global emissions. We have a share of global emissions for all the world of just 1.83%, I'm sorry. But on the other hand, if we look into the economy, the whole GDP in the world, we represent 2.5% of the whole economy. So we're emitting, in terms of a country, less than the world is emitting in terms of carbon dioxide. But on the other hand, even though we are like not emitting that much, if we look into graphics and emissions by country, our contribution is still very high. And why? Especially due to the Amazon deforestation. Deforestation in Brazil, especially the deforestation of the Amazon, represents, I mean, the biggest amount of emissions that the country is contributing. And this is the biggest challenge that we have for this century, and that's the biggest challenge that the country has for the forthcoming decades, is to tackle deforestation and to prepare the population that live within forests to make an economic opportunity from the land. So the idea is obviously to develop an economic and legal system that remunerates and that empowers people that are still living there to make a part of an international or a local market that contributes with tackling deforestation and conserving the forest. And what are the solutions that can be learned from this path? Especially carbon markets from deforestation. This is what is happening so far. It's a very challenging and tricky issue, but throughout these last years, the voluntary market of carbon credits in Brazil has been evolving and has been evolving a lot, and the evolution is very notable. I mean, what is going on so far, and this is an instrument that, I mean, it's really important because it's a way that you can give alternatives for local populations to, instead of cutting the forest and instead of converting the land usage of forests to agriculture or to any other activities that will destroy the forest. No, you will try to figure out an instrument that can allocate money and can provide fair solutions for people that are still there and will make the economy there still evolving. For this reason, Brazil has already approved now a carbon market regulated carbon market bill, which creates an emission trading scheme and provides purchase and sale of emissions for certain sectors. This bill was approved in last December, and there are many, many challenges to be observed and to overcome, but it's something that we expect that throughout these years will contribute for the evolution of this carbon market. We have an expectation that with a very well-developed carbon market in Brazil, we can have the restoration of more than 12 million of hectares for the forest that is still allocated there. And I mean, if this solution, if it's well-handed, if it's well-developed, and at the same time, if it's well-organized with like good enforcement, with capacitated agencies, with involvement of local communities, I think it's a win-win solution that, I mean, we can sell carbon credits throughout the world, creditable carbon credits, I would say, verified emissions with certified body schemes that are able to certify that we are already contributing with additionality and we are already contributing with conservation of forests. Also, the country has not only for forests and not only for what we call as, I would say, the conserved areas that are still conserved, we also have a big opportunity for already degraded areas. Areas that are still degraded, they can be a part of this carbon emissions trading scheme for the future. And obviously, this is another way to allocate money and to give you can increment incomes for the local population. I am almost finishing my presentation here. I just would like to say that so far we are observing a trend as well as involving climate litigation in the country. This is something that is really evolving through the last decades, and we see that part of NGOs and also public prosecutors, they are starting to get more deeply within carbon targets and carbon regulation in order to tackle this matter within the courts as well. This is something that we expect that will happen for the future, and obviously there's a big trend to come. But I don't want to extend my presentation here. I'm obviously at your disposal for many other discussions here, like around the hall, so we can talk later on. I just would like to move forward here and to finish my presentation. Many thanks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rafael, for your great presentation about the Brazilian perspective. And we move forward, and we are moving to Spain with José Ramón Bauza, and he was a member of the EU Parliament from 2019 to 24. He was president of the government of the Balearic Islands from 2011 to 2015, and he's the trustee of the World Law Foundation. So we are really looking forward to the Spanish perspective or your personal perspective as well.
Thank you so much. Muy buenas tardes a todos. Un placer estar aquí en República Dominicana. Well, my perspective will be related to something that, as a member of the European Parliament in the last 5 years, I have led in something that maybe you have heard someone in your life. Have you heard something about aviation? About an airplane? About tourism? Tourism, yes. So I have been that one who has led the legislation about sustainable aviation fuels. That is something that is mandatory in Europe. Is what is used to be SAF. You hear sometimes SAF, yes? So you will never forget that word. Because it's absolutely mandatory from January the 1st of this year, 2025. It's mandatory in Europe, not in the rest of the countries and the regions, obviously. But when we created that in Europe, what we wanted is to decrease the CO2 emissions, because I'm sure that you have heard about CO2 emissions. So only 2% of CO2 emission, only 2% are linked or related to the aviation sector, to the aviation industry, to the aviation movement, transport. So can you ever imagine anything related to tourism without an aviation, without an airplane? It's almost important. All of us has flight to Dominican Republic, or you are from the island, obviously, but I'm from Mallorca, I'm from another island. And all of the tourism that come to our island, they used to be coming flying, but they don't have flags. They use the aviation sector. So only 2% of the CO2 emissions, they come from the aviation sector. This is absolutely important and relevant because in some times, much more than we would like, the aviation sector has been criminalized has been guilty about all the pains in the world. Well, the aviation sector helps, and it had to be treated. How do we do that with the SAF? SAF is the only substance, is the only fuel that by itself reduce the CO2 emission. At the moment, until the moment, there was 2 previous atoms to decrease, but the atoms was used by paying. The first of all was the increase of the price of the kerosene. Oh, it's good, but what is said is, well, if you want to fly more, you have to pay more. Okay, but it's not relevant because maybe someone wants to pay more. So you cannot decrease the level of the CO2 emissions, just paying. Second, ETS. ETS is the system that we pay for the emission of CO2. As much as you create the emissions, as much you pay. So this is not relevant because if you can pay, you can do it. But with this position, with this substance, with the use of SAF, you really decrease the CO2 emissions. Why? Where is the mystery? How is this? Is there any magician who has to do that? No. It's just you create a fuel who is providing, who is coming for the use of trash, vegetables, and many different things that you can just pump into the airplane, and you substitute the kerosene by SAF. So you don't have to pay more. It is not guilty, and in great transitions, you finally will use only SAF. But it has to be, we have to think about the industry. I really believe in all the energies in the system, obviously. I really believe in the clean energy sources, obviously. But we need to provide, and we are in a Jurist Congress, you need to provide legal certainty to invest in order to create what is mandatory, or it was supposed to be mandatory from some politician. I was part of that. So the main important thing is that if you create legal certainty, you provide the options that the engineering, that the companies, or not only air companies, but as well the chemical companies, the petrol companies, and all the system can be safe and sure that finally can be used. When we did that, how did we do it? First of all, we create an agenda and a schedule, a timetable that we said we start at the very beginning of 2025, just 2% of the use of SAF until 2050, that has to be 70%. So we give time, we provide time to the industry to create the SAF, to provide the evolution, and finally you can use it. Second, it's so important that the price, the ticket price, the final ticket price of the plane has to be maintaining and decreasing on the time, because where it will impact in the tourism destination. It will impact in the Dominican Republic, it will impact in Mallorca, it will impact in all the times, all the places around the world, because as much price you give to the fuel, as much you will pay for the ticket, and as much cost finally to arrive some destination. If it's a short distance, maybe you can afford it, but if it's a long distance, you can never thought about that. And what the aviation helps is to democratize the use of an airplane. So maybe 20 years ago, not everybody could afford to use a plane to go to any destination in the world, but today you can afford to use an airplane and to have different destinations, obviously different destinations, different times, different prices. But with the use of SAF, in any time, maybe at the first, because we need to create a fuel that is its own, obviously, you need to spend a little bit more money. But as well, we give another options that is not only the use of, because of the use of trash and vegetables, we give an options to prepare some kinds of vegetables not to be used that one who provides for feed people, and that like soja and all that. But we can as well use e-fuels. E-fuels are fuels who are made with these kind of substances, but they are not using energy from the solar panels, from the hydric, or maybe the eolic energy. This can provide as well for the nuclear energy. And I finish, because there's no time. My message is that we all always absolutely conserve on the environment. But the transition has to be a fair transition. We cannot permit to close the path of some industry that have invested a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of future options for people, because just some politicians just want to change things. Let's be fair with environment, but let's be fair with ourselves. Don't do anything out of our houses that we never do in our houses. This is important, because sometimes the politicians forget that they are elected by people, and they think they are another atmosphere, in another balloon, in another sphere or galaxy. So let's think in people, but let's make dreams possible and reality. We have a lot of dreams, we have a lot of threats, we have a lot of opportunities, but never do that without the industry and without the people. If we do it, we have problem. If we do it together, maybe we have an option. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jose, for your very holistic approach, which I really appreciate. And now we move forward from Spain to Georgia. And I must say, almost all of us have been to the World Law Congress 2 years ago in New York. And Irakli and me were in the same panel of environment and energy 2 years ago as well. And I'm really happy to announce Irakli Samkaravadze from Georgia. He's the director of European Integration Research Center. So I'm really looking forward to the Georgian perspective of your beautiful country.
And regional also. Thank you, Steffi. It's a great pleasure to be here, obviously. And yeah, it's my second World Law Congress. I've been in New York, has been a great experience. And we met fantastic people, and it's just going on, and obviously I'm very happy for that. Jose just very indirectly or kindly reminded us that we have all generated carbon footprints actually coming here to the Dominican Republic. That applies to me as well. It was actually 16 hours flight from Georgia through Turkey and the United States, and we finally made it to here. And I was calculating this morning, actually, it is actually, I wrote this down, 1.5 metric tons of CO2 that has been generated just individually in order us to come here. But that we did intentionally, because not only for meeting brilliant people, but also for telling everybody, using all the possibilities and telling everybody that anything that speaks about climate change says it's bad, but anything that does not speak about climate change, it actually says this is even worse. So we need to think about that, but not only to think, but we need to actually have very critical and timely pressing actions in order to finally reach the goals that Steffi was also, as an introductory note, was putting and using for setting the scene for this panel also today. So what I'm adding to this panel in more concrete terms is, of course, is sustainability lens, but from a legal harmonization perspective, legal harmonization twist. And what I will be talking or arguing today is also to shed the light on the particular laws, or rather subject-linked laws in a certain geographical setting. And when I was saying that I will be reviewing a bit of a regional concept or scope, that's exactly what I meant with looking into the energy community system, looking into the geographical scope which is covered by the EU's so-called EU's Southeastern Energy Club, which is called Energy Community, and my own country, which is a small country in Eastern Europe, is a part of this community since 2016. So then while my focus is on the legal harmonization, as I said, then my hypothesis should be or will be that there is or there shall be some kind of comprehensive or at least smarter techniques which helps us to not only mitigate the risk of the climate change, but also to come up comprehensive ideas or systems how to tackle that. And when I was thinking about that, I didn't come up this because this is a well-known concept. It's not purely an academic concept, but it is science-driven concept, which is called quadruple helix model. And that I'm thinking that this model can be something that helps us in tackling the climate change, but also using the different groups of stakeholders who could be the important, substantial parts of helping the government and others in order to meet the targets that we are all talking about. And if we now need to break down this quadruple helix model, then we need to think of 4 important stakeholder groups. These are governments, this is industry, this also is civil society, and finally academia. Let me come back on this little bit later, but of course, the former politician sitting here next to me, I also need to have clear messages, and I do have 3 clear messages here today. The message number 1, that legal harmonization can be used, or it is actually an important tool or a strategy to accelerate energy transition. Yes, we understand that this transition should not be immediate in a way that it should be fair, but it will be there. No matter how much we think about it or talk about that, no matter by design or by disaster, energy transition will definitely be there, and we need to be very vigilant on that. And while I'm talking that legal harmonization is an important pillar for this energy transition, we need to also have frameworks. In my region, including my country, we have 2 important frameworks. These are, of course, UN framework, so-called Agenda 2030, with very strict monitoring system and element. And it is important because whatever you can't measure, you can't improve. So it is very important that we do have this strict SDGs monitoring system in place in our countries. And second important framework that we are also talking about, and it especially applies very critically within the legal harmonization context, is the European Union framework, which is currently anchored or revolved around the so-called European Green Deal, with a climate neutrality pledge. We all know, or at least there will be certain understanding on the climate neutrality concept in this audience, I'm sure about that, which says that you need to remove as much as you emit, and the countries in this region, countries being the contracting parties to the energy community that I'm talking about, are also going in that direction, that they need to have climate neutrality pledges in their own legislation. When it comes to Georgia, as using an example, we don't have a clear climate neutrality pledge in our legal system so far, but we have actually a draft legal framework, climate law, which already speaks about this, and hopefully this will be adopted in a foreseeable future. The second claim here, I was mentioning in the beginning that the quadruple helix itself as a tool or concept that can be utilized in this context. This is not new, it's actually started using in the late 2000s, but has been then heavily conceptualized in different jurisdictions as well, including my own. And what it says, as I said, let me also repeat, yes, governance, academia, industry, and civil society. You need to have all present in order energy transition to be actually achieved. What is the role of government? Sitting obviously in the driver's seat, because they are the ones responsible for the legal harmonization as well. That is done creatively and not, there is no copy-paste approach, so-called. Industry, although it hasn't been mentioned in this context concretely, but I've come across a lot of industrial elements in the contributions of my previous speakers here. When ETS was mentioned, for example, when carbon offsetting was mentioned by a Brazilian colleague here, which, by the way, Brazil is one of the front runners when it comes to carbon offsetting because of the, of course, Amazon forest, and it's doing a great job also for being the benchmark for small countries like Georgia as well. And ETS and carbon pricing, yes, industry needs to understand that they are the key guardians when it comes not only protecting, but also then using their carbon savings for their own income and for their own goods. But industry needs to understand that, because in the countries that I'm actually speaking about, there is no comprehensive strategies for ETS, for carbon pricing and offsetting schemes and mechanisms so far. Then the academia, crucial, of course, because what we usually say in law is that there is no better way to exercise imagination rather than studying or teaching laws. We need to make our students and youngsters understand that they need to be ready for the job market they actually are supposed to work in, and obviously this is why we need to actually push as much as possible the academia being in the front seat as well. Last point on civil society, they are usually the ones who are writing, drafting, and finally then governments are adopting the laws. They need to understand there is a crucial pillar that they need to fill in, and yes, civil society should also be present heavily when it comes to legal harmonization. And the last message, and with that I'm closing, that legal harmonization is obviously a key pillar of international cooperation these days, and the countries being the contracting parties to the energy community are heavily dependent on international cooperation. There are different, of course, frameworks and mechanisms for that. That's why legal harmonization should be used as a method and the tool to push the energy transition processes nationally, domestically, and regionally, of course, when speaking at the regional level. Finally, yes, energy transition, legal harmonization, and key point maybe, or key concluding remark, that legal harmonization is not only harmonizing the laws, that we are not only speaking on standards harmonization, but we need to think always that there's much larger or bigger concepts to be domestically applied, and this is called legal homogeneity. So we are creating homogeneous legal systems in our countries, whatever jurisdictions apply, and these systems must be definitely relied on vision, commitment, and of course capacity. With that, I'm leaving and will be happy to participate in the discussion later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Irakli, for your great contribution. And we directly move forward to Romania, to Marieta Safta from the academic world. She's a law professor at Titu Maiorescu University. It's a pleasure and an honor for us to have you here, and we are looking forward to your contribution.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here today and to be part of such a meaningful discussion. In the light of my previous experience as a magistrate at the Constitutional Court of Romania for almost 20 years, I chose as a main topic for my presentation the role of the constitutional jurisdictions in this important balance of the environmental obligation and rights and economic developments. However, in order to have a more comprehensive approach, I will discuss in 3 minutes about the Romanian energy goals. And after that, in the remaining minutes, 3 minutes, I will discuss about the role of the Constitutional Court of Romania in balancing environmental rights and economic developments. As concerned the first point of my presentation, meaning the Romanian's energy goals, It is important to mention that at the end of 2024, Romania approved a comprehensive national energy strategy through the government decisions. The energy strategy for Romania 2025-2035 with an outlook 2050, setting out ambitious visions aligned with European Union because Romania is a member state of European Union, and the national constitutional frameworks. This strategy aims to ensure energy security, economic growth, environmental protection, and social inclusion. I say a few words about the main goals, meaning the energy security and the geopolitical resilience, because I think it's important and it is specific to the Romania geopolitical positions. This Romania's energy security remains a strategic priority, particularly in the light of regional instability with the war at the border. This strategy highlights Romania's unique geostrategic position at the eastern border of European Union and the need for resilience against disruptions in energy supply chains. A crucial aspects of this strategy is the Romania's commitment to the energy security of our neighbors, Republic of Moldova. Given Moldova's highest dependence on the external energy sources and vulnerability to regional pressures, Romania had pledged to develop cross-border infrastructure such as energy and electricity and gas interconnection to integrate Moldova into the European energy market and to act also as a regional hub providing stability not only for domestic consumers but for the entire Eastern European region. Other objectives of this strategy, I'll just point out them: decarbonization and energy transition, energy efficiency and modern infrastructure, universal access to fair pricing, efficient, transparent, and competitive markets. And a very important point mentioned also in your introduction concerns the digitalization, cybersecurity, and innovation. And I would like to emphasize, and I think that you agree with me, that it is very important to educate the young people, to educate the society in this spirit of protection of environment. For example, there are a lot of projects pending in this regard because it's important to invest in the education and research to foster the innovation. For example, at my university, I am a member in a project entitled AI Connect, a project trying to adapt competencies and qualification regarding environment, climate, energy transition. So in order to raise awareness in the first place, and after that to manage this integration of the objective I mentioned in education and also at the workplaces. As concerns the second point, the role of Constitutional Court, meaning balancing development and environmental rights, I'd say that Constitutional Court of Romania plays a critical role in ensuring that this transformation respects the rights to a healthy environment and maintain constitutional balance between development and environmental protection. It is important to have a strong constitutional framework in this regard, and the Constitution of Romania provides disposition ensuring the right to a healthy and ecological balanced environment, also the obligation of the state to protect and restore the environment, even and discuss about economic growth. An important limit of the Constitution, of the amendment of the Constitution provided by the express provisions is to not weaken the core constitutional rights through constitutional amendments, and also we have express provisions giving priority to European Union law, and also providing primacy of the international human rights treaties when they are more favorable. These provisions form, I think, a foundation of a green constitutional model wherein sustainable development and intergenerational equity are considered constitutional imperative. As concerned the role of the Constitutional Court in this regard, I think it's very important that the Constitutional Court of Romania has the power to review the amendment of the constitutions itself, so to protect that core of human rights to not be touched by other constitutional amendment. For example, in 2014, the Constitutional Court ruled that it was unconstitutional a proposal to revise the article of the Constitution concerning economy by subordinating environmental protection to economic growth. The court stated that this kind of amendment is unconstitutional because it's against the right to healthy environment. There are also another examples in constitutional review of the laws before promulgation and after entry into force. For example, I'll give just one example. For example, the Constitutional Court found the unconstitutionality of the law permitting hydropower project in protected natural area due to the lack of environmental safeguards and also due to the procedural integrity of that law. And at that moment, in the reasoning of the decisions of the Constitutional Court, it was emphasized once again the importance of this objective to enhance the environmental protection provided by the Constitution. As core constitutional principles applied by the Constitutional Court in this balancing of rights and obligation enshrined of the Constitution, I will mention proportionality, legal certainty, because in some decision, Constitutional Court stated on the procedure followed by the legislator in order to enact provisions in the area of protection of the environment, sustainable development and intergenerational equity, biodiversity and ecological balance, and once again, respect for legislative process. So not only substantial, but also in terms of procedures. Concluding in a few words, I would say that Romania's energy strategy is aligned with European and global climate ambitions. And as concerned the Constitutional Court and the constitutional justice in general, that has an important role, have the important role to pursue the energy independence and economic developments, but not with the price of undermining environmental rights or international obligation. So the constitutional courts, but also European courts of human rights, because it was mentioned also the case of German Federal Court or other courts in the world, they have this duty to keep this balance between the objective of energy development and protection the environment. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Marietta. So now we are moving on from Romania back to South America. And now we have a completely different region, but a great speaker as well with Santiago Solinas from Ecuador. He's partner at Solinas and Asociados Advogados. Looking forward to your contribution from.
Thank you, Steffi. Well, first of all, I want to thanks for the presentation and introduction the relationship with the energy and the environment, because are too close. No? That is two sector to be considered in the public affairs. I'm going to talk in Spanish for the audience. I'm going to talk about the problem that my country have in energy the last year, because we found a lot of distortions with the transmissions and the generation. Well, I'm going to talk first, bueno, voy a primero hablar de qué es lo que pasó un poco en mi país, como decía, agradecer además a todos ustedes por su presencia. Ecuador es un país pequeño efectivamente, pero tuvo digamos una situación extrema que creo que pone en relieve la importancia de generar una legislación bastante integral, ¿no?, de cara a cómo afrontar estos procesos de cambio climático. Ecuador tiene una matriz energética secundaria apalancada en energía renovable, básicamente hidroeléctricas, pero de gran escala, es decir, centrales hidroeléctricas muy grandes que abastecen al sistema eléctrico del país. Más o menos para que tengan ustedes una idea, el sistema nuestro de energía secundaria, es decir, la electricidad que consumimos en los diferentes sectores, equivale en energía renovable al 75%. El resto es energía fósil y algo residual en energía renovable no convencional. Entonces uno pensaría que la energía renovable es una energía suficiente para poder lograr el objetivo de sostener el sistema, de tener seguridad de suministro y al mismo tiempo de contribuir con el medio ambiente. Y sin embargo eso no sucedió así. Ecuador estuvo sumido en las tinieblas durante 2 meses por una sequía nunca antes vista, una sequía de más de 100 años, que no había pasado algo así, y un fenómeno que es el fenómeno de la niña. Hay el fenómeno del niño y de la niña en Latinoamérica, en Sudamérica. Este fue el fenómeno de la niña, y esta conjunción hizo que nos quedáramos sin electricidad, porque las centrales hidroeléctricas no tenían agua, entonces no podíamos producir energía. Entonces ahí viene un tema muy importante que hay que discutirlo. Primero, el concepto de pobreza energética, es decir, la pobreza energética de Europa o de los países desarrollados es distinto a la pobreza energética de los países en vía de desarrollo, porque la pobreza energética en los vías de desarrollo está muy vinculado a la accesibilidad de la energía eléctrica, a los precios altos que hacen que no se pueda cancelar esa energía eléctrica, y también a un tema de suministro. Entonces, si tenemos un tema de pobreza energética y un tema de seguridad de suministro, es decir, la incapacidad del Estado y de los agentes privados que son parte del sistema energético y eléctrico de proveer energía eléctrica, tiene que haber una nueva reestructura de cómo se concibe la generación, la distribución y la transmisión de esa energía eléctrica. Entonces, la discusión que se ha planteado en Ecuador, y lo vimos también ahora en España con una caída de la energía eléctrica de un día entero que afectó a Portugal y parte de Francia, es justamente la vulnerabilidad que puede tener los sistemas energéticos y eléctricos de los países. Y entonces aquí viene un tema de una correlación, un equilibrio entre lo que se legisla desde lo supranacional, que nos puso la pauta del COP21 en Francia y nos reafirmó la COP29 en Azerbaiyán, donde decimos muy bien, hay un problema energético, hay un problema que está asociado a un cambio climático, que hay que reducir las emisiones de gas de efecto invernadero, pero también hay un tema de desarrollo y convivencia social. Es decir, el ser humano y la naturaleza tienen que equilibrarse en esa relación. Y es ahí cuando vuelven a hacer la discusión de qué legislamos, qué normativas generamos, qué política pública generamos de cara a equilibrar esta relación. Porque la energía que proviene de recursos fósiles, el gas, el carbón, los derivados de petróleo, energía que proviene de fuentes nucleares, deben ser consideradas como parte de la matriz energética de un país. Es verdad que la energía solar fotovoltaica y la energía eólica, la biomasa, han tenido auge en muchos países. En Ecuador ha ido incrementando y a raíz de esta crisis energética y eléctrica del país se emitieron una serie de decretos y se aprobó una ley justamente para desarrollar, SELEC es nuestra empresa pública que tiene monopolio de la electricidad, y se estableció un desarrollo de APPs, de alianzas público-privadas, para que el sector público pueda entrar a participar en esta dinámica de generación y distribución. Y por otro lado, la concienciación de buscar esas fuentes que antes fueron desechadas. Es verdad que el sistema energético apalancado en energía térmica, es decir, a través de recursos fósiles derivados del petróleo, son contaminantes, pero no es menos cierto que sí son parte de una matriz para generar esa seguridad de suministro. Y también es importante el tema de la interconexión. En el caso de España, tenía el apoyo de Francia para lograr eso. En caso de Ecuador, el ciclo que tiene climático Colombia y Ecuador, donde hay una interconexión mucho más fuerte, es más complicado, y la interconexión que hay con Perú es muy débil. De hecho, estamos ahorita justamente en un proceso donde una empresa española, de hecho, ya ganó la licitación en Perú y está ahora participando en Ecuador para fortalecer la interconexión Ecuador-Perú, porque esa sí es anticíclica. Perú, cuando tiene lluvias, Ecuador no las tiene y viceversa, y con eso puedes generar de hecho, Ecuador en febrero y marzo exportó energía eléctrica a Perú. Entonces, este ejemplo lo traigo a colación porque es indispensable que la discusión en temas de energía y de desarrollo de energías renovables, apalancado en una protección del medio ambiente, también tenga en cuenta estos otros elementos, porque muchas energías renovables no convencionales, como es la eólica, la solar, la hídrica, no son constantes. Y al no ser constantes, genera un problema justamente de riesgo de suministro. Y a la larga, si uno logra primar en el tema del consumo de energía renovable a través de la pirámide que usa los distribuidores y la transmisión de esa energía, poniendo obviamente en primer lugar sobre relieve la energía renovable e ir bajando escalonadamente, pero que haya una lógica más o menos equilibrada de esa generación, vamos a lograr efectivamente bajar la emisión de gases de efecto invernadero, pero vamos también al mismo tiempo a asegurar que el sistema productivo funcione, que la industria funcione y que no colapse. Para terminar simplemente esta primera intervención, comentar que en Ecuador se ha desarrollado un proyecto de ley que lo que busca, ya hubo 2 resoluciones de la Agencia de Control de Regulación Energética en mi país, que buscaba impulsar el tema que ya obviamente Europa lo tiene muy desarrollado, que es la generación distribuida y el autoconsumo. Y ahí es donde juega un rol fundamental la legislación, ¿no? El poder incorporar en el consenso, en el diálogo social previo a crear la norma, a los diferentes actores. No se puede dejar al productor de energía, no se puede dejar afuera a aquellos a sectores que van a ser consultados porque van ahí a ir las fuentes de generación energética, y no se puede dejar de tener a los consumidores y al Estado como digamos, propietario de servicio público que es el suministro de energía eléctrica. Y este consenso lo que debe buscar es justamente desarrollar proyectos más pequeños, que es la generación distribuida, proyectos más pequeños que permitan interconectar a la red, pero en lugares más pequeños, y asegurar el suministro, y lo propio con el autoconsumo para efectos de que pueda a la larga una empresa o un ciudadano consumir y también vertir la energía a red. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias, Santiago. And we continue directly with Venezuela and Javier Troconis. It's a great pleasure to have you here. It's a great honor as well. And Javier is the Deputy Director of the Inter-American Development Bank. And it's almost the last contribution of today, but afterwards we still have the home country, Dominican Republic, but now we continue with Venezuela. Javier, the floor is yours.
a pleasure for me to be here. With your permission, I will give my presentation in Spanish. Thank you. Buenas tardes a todos. Buenas tardes al panel. Un placer. Voy a hablar hoy de una propuesta que venimos trabajando hace algunos meses en la Universidad Carlos III y pretende hablar lo que tiene que ver con el cambio climático, que mezcla afecta directamente a la salud. Nos reúne hoy con una urgencia que es también una oportunidad histórica. La relación entre la energía, medio ambiente ya no puede entenderse sin incorporar una tercera dinámica crítica, la salud. La degradación ambiental impulsada por un modelo energético contaminante y desigual ha desbordado el ámbito ecológico para convertirse en un problema estructural de sostenibilidad ambiental global. Estamos ante una realidad insolayable que es el colapso climático, que también es el colapso sanitario. Las olas de calor extremo que agravan enfermedades respiratorias, entre otras, la expansión de vectores infecciosos hacia nuevas geografías, la pérdida del acceso al agua limpia, la inseguridad alimentaria provocada por la desertificación, los desplazamientos forzados que desbordan los sistemas de atención médica, todo ello nos lleva a una misma conclusión: la salud humana y la sostenibilidad ambiental son indivisibles. Sin embargo, nuestro derecho internacional sigue regulando estas dimensiones por separado, como si fueran compartimentos estancos. Es momento de reconocer que puede haber derecho a la salud con una justicia climática y no puede haber justicia climática sin transición energética global, equitativa y jurídicamente garantizada. Mi intervención propone precisamente eso, que avancemos hacia la construcción de un nuevo modelo de gobernanza ambiental global, sustentado jurídicamente en la articulación entre energía limpia, protección ambiental y el derecho a un ambiente sano. En ese ámbito tenemos tres aspectos. El primero, transición energética y salud, una independencia estructural. La dependencia de los combustibles fósiles genera más que emisiones, enfermedades, muertes prematuras, debilitamiento del ecosistema natural. Según la Organización Mundial de la Salud, 7 millones de personas mueren cada año a causa de contaminación, como efecto de la contaminación ambiental. Sin embargo, todavía se destinan subsidios millonarios a las industrias fósiles. Mientras millones de personas carecen de acceso básico, energías y esterilizar instrumentos médicos, agua potable, etc. No es exagerado decir que la transición energética es una cuestión de sostenibilidad ambiental y como tal requiere estar regulada bajo principios de equidad, prevención y acceso universal. Segundo punto, la gobernanza climática y sanitaria. Los marcos jurídicos existentes, como el Acuerdo de Paz de París o el Reglamento Sanitario Internacional, abordan de manera parcial los vínculos entre la crisis climática y la ecológica. No existe hasta hoy una arquitectura jurídica que integre de forma coherente las dimensiones energéticas, ambientales y sanitarias. Esta fragmentación debilita la capacidad de respuesta frente a amenazas sistemáticas, como se evidenció en el año 2020 con la pandemia del COVID. La falta de acceso a la energía limpia y resiliente limitó la respuesta ambiental en muchas regiones del mundo. De ahí, propongamos avanzar hacia un instrumento jurídico multilateral, vinculante y con mecanismos efectivos de cumplimiento, que consagre principios como la sostenibilidad ambiental como derecho emergente, el acceso equitativo a tecnologías limpias, la protección a poblaciones vulnerables y la responsabilidad común, pero diferenciada. El tercer punto es el rol del derecho de la construcción de una gobernanza ambiental global. El derecho no puede seguir actuando a la saga de las crisis. Debe anticiparse y estructurar, proteger. Y para ello es necesario repensar nuestros marcos normativos con una visión transdisciplinaria de largo plazo. Esta nueva arquitectura jurídica debería reconocer la interdependencia entre salud, ambiente y energía en las constituciones y tratados internacionales, establecer obligaciones vinculantes para los estados y actores privados en materia de transición energética con el enfoque en la salud, garantizar mecanismos de financiamiento climático y ambiental, especialmente para países del sur, de manera global. Promover el acceso a la justicia ambiental, incluyendo la protección de los defensores del ambiente y la sostenibilidad ambiental. Incluir salvaguardas para que ninguna transición energética viole derechos humanos. Y como cuarto punto, con esto cierro, la justicia como puente entre el derecho y la vida. Construir una nueva gobernanza ambiental global no es solo una necesidad técnica, es una exigencia ética. Una transición energética verdaderamente justa que traduce las energías limpias en un aire respirable, en territorios protegidos, en alimentos sanos y ecosistemas naturales resilientes frente a unas futuras nuevas pandemias. Hoy más que nunca el derecho está llamado a atender puentes entre la dignidad humana y la sostenibilidad planetaria, porque el derecho no es solo un conjunto de normas, es un sentido más profundo, una promesa de vida. Y esa vida en este siglo XXI depende de que seamos capaces de construir con decisiones jurídicas, con cooperación internacional y con visión de justicia, un modelo de gobernanza ambiental global donde la energía, el ambiente y la salud sean parte de un mismo pacto civilizado. Muchísimas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, Javier, for your valuable contribution. And now we are going to have the last contribution of our expert and panelist. It's a great honor to announce Francisco Dominguez Brito from the Dominican Republic, our home base here, this beautiful country, island, and I really like it. And he's former Attorney General of the Dominican Republic and former Minister of the Environment of the Dominican Republic. Looking forward to your contribution, Francisco.
Gracias. Saludo al panel, saludo a todos los integrantes aquí. A manera de introducción quisiera decirle que en materia de derecho, lo que fue lógico y racional ayer no lo es en el día de hoy. Y lo de hoy probablemente no lo será mañana. ¿Por qué digo esto? Porque pretendo en estas palabras resaltar que el Estado de Derecho no solo debe de favorecer a los seres humanos, sino también a los demás seres del planeta. A partir de la revolución industrial y el uso de combustibles fósiles para generar energía, se ha producido un aumento de la emisión de gases de efecto invernadero, lo cual se ha traducido, como todos sabemos, en el calentamiento del planeta. Según Harari, las bombas nucleares, el cambio climático y ahora la inteligencia artificial ponen en peligro la existencia del planeta y de todos los que habitamos en él. Si el cambio climático nos puede destruir y es una acción humana contra otros humanos, entonces ellos o nosotros estamos violando derechos de los demás. Las leyes que nos garantizan la vida, la dignidad y la libertad, por ejemplo, deberían ser un instrumento para defendernos, los humanos, ante las amenazas del cambio climático. No hay duda de que los seres humanos tenemos derecho a accionar en justicia para defender nuestros derechos fundamentales. Donde hay dudas es en si los demás seres del planeta también tienen derecho, no solo a existir, a la vida, a la no tortura, a migrar o no migrar, a la libertad, a la presunción de inocencia, ¿por qué no? O a la personalidad jurídica. Más aún, si los demás seres sintientes o no sintientes del planeta tienen derecho a accionar para que en un estado de derecho ideal, un tribunal pueda hacer respetar y proteger sus derechos y tal vez hasta reconocerles personalidad jurídica. Estamos conscientes que en el contexto del tiempo y la evolución humana hacia un mundo más civilizado hay una racionalidad y un sentido común que respetar. No quiero ni pretendo que estas palabras nos lleven a discusiones irracionales, pero también sé que es una visión antropocéntrica la nuestra, el ver las cosas donde somos el centro de todo y donde todo debe girar alrededor de nosotros, los seres humanos. Me parece que por encima de nosotros o en paralelo, el planeta y los seres que la integran también tienen derecho a existir. Por eso valdría la pena hablar de cómo el sistema energético y su actual regulación afecta a derechos fundamentales, no solo del ser humano, sino de los demás seres del planeta. Todo esto con motivo de la emisión de gases de efecto invernadero y el cambio climático. El derecho fundamental es el derecho a la vida. De ahí se desprende todo. Para garantizar esto y otros derechos más, las sociedades crean lo que se denomina el Estado de Derecho, o incluso se habla de Estado social y democrático de derecho. Y si un jurón mapache o un perro, que es uno de los seres sintientes por excelencia, que de manera silvestre vive en el bosque, al lado del mar, junto a gatos también silvestres, y se comen los huevos de especies marinas en Bahía de las Águilas, una playa virgen de la República Dominicana, donde anidan tortugas tinglares. ¿Tienen derecho esas tortugas en peligro de extinción a valerse de los seres humanos para salvarse ante la agresión de los perros silvestres mediante el recurso de la legítima defensa? En estos casos, la legítima defensa es un mal menor. ¿Se podría explicar este principio al nuevo Estado de Derecho que pretendemos crear? Y si el pez león y otros seres obligados a migrar por el cambio climático alegan su presunción de inocencia, o sea, de que ellos no han migrado por su voluntad, sino por el hecho del ser humano y la acción del hombre ante el calentamiento de los océanos, realmente ellos no son los culpables. ¿Por qué entonces se presume que sobre ellos recae la culpa, cuando la culpa real es de los gases de efecto invernadero? ¿Quién tiene la verdad en todas estas disquisiciones? ¿Es el derecho a existir de los demás seres del planeta una tontería? Y si tuvieran ellos derechos, como si fueran también seres humanos, a reclamar contra la tortura y el trato cruel. El cambio climático está obligando a muchos seres a migrar y otros migran porque es su naturaleza. Las convenciones internacionales sobre la migración establecen una serie de parámetros para la protección de los seres humanos migrantes. Además, también tenemos derecho a no migrar y a vivir en nuestros espacios de siempre. Y de nuevo la pregunta, ¿y los demás seres del planeta tienen derecho a no ser obligados por los seres humanos y el cambio climático a migrar? Estamos secando los bosques y los humedales donde se refugian las especies para reproducirse. Las aves que migran cada vez encuentran menos lugar para migrar, lo que les cambia su rutina y su existencia. Muchas veces el cambio climático los obliga a migrar y se convierten en especies invasoras y odiadas, pues dañan otros seres indefensos, se rompe el equilibrio, no tienen depredadores y de víctimas pasan a victimarios. Yo me pregunto si contra estos migrantes involuntarios no humanos pudiéramos utilizar el recurso de la legítima defensa también para matarlos y así salvar a otros seres o especies más vulnerables. Si el pez león en el mar Caribe se come todo lo que encuentra, ¿debo matarlo para proteger a las demás especies? Es cierto que hablar de esto rompe todos nuestros esquemas en materia de derecho. Por ejemplo, sabemos que la libertad es un derecho fundamental para nosotros y que la posibilidad de recurrir ante la justicia, de accionar, es un derecho que nace incluso de la misma libertad. Uno pudiera preguntarse si tienen derecho los demás seres de vivir en libertad. Los zoológicos, por ejemplo, serían una especie de prisión para alguien como el tigre o el león que no han cometido delito alguno. ¿Por qué están presos? ¿Quién los juzgó? ¿Realmente tienen derecho a vivir en libertad los animales, por ejemplo? Pero hay un concepto de libertad todavía más profundo y es por el que me quiero pronunciar. El de recurrir en los tribunales para que se respeten sus derechos. ¿Cómo veríamos nosotros si los pingüinos del Ártico demandan en un tribunal federal de Nueva York a las compañías petroleras ante el derretimiento de los hielos que habitan como consecuencia de la emisión de gases de efecto invernadero? ¡Qué locura! Pero si estos seres no tienen capacidad mental, emocional y racional, dirían muchos aquí de los que me escuchan, no es posible entonces que tengan derecho a ir ante un tribunal. ¿Cómo un pingüino va a ir ante un tribunal? Tampoco tienen derecho no solo de movimiento como lo hemos visto, y mucho menos a recibir tratos crueles. Imaginemos que tenemos una mascota en nuestra casa, de manera específica un gato o nuestro perro, y que a propósito, de manera negligente, lo dejemos morir de sed. ¿Sería esto una tortura tan cruel o peor que matarlo a golpes? Morir de sed debe ser algo muy doloroso, pero nosotros los seres humanos, en una especie de voluntad no activa, pero conscientes, egoístas o tal vez gravemente negligentes con nuestras acciones, estamos torturando, si se puede decir, o dando un trato cruel a animales con alto sentido de emoción como pudiera ser el elefante africano. Hablamos de un mamífero acosado por la desertificación, las altas temperaturas. Un elefante que cuando ve morir su hijo de sed llora y permanece horas enteras alrededor de su ser querido. Es la acción humana la que genera ese trato cruel hacia los elefantes. ¿Cómo recurrir entonces ante un tribunal a reclamar sus derechos ante esa desertificación y el cambio climático si no tiene idea de lo que es eso? Pero uno también se pregunta, ¿y los niños, nuestros hijos, por ejemplo, tienen libertad y capacidad racional y emocional? ¿Tienen discernimiento los niños para ir a justicia? Claro que no, como tampoco lo tienen los animales. Sin embargo, los niños tienen derecho a accesar a un sistema de justicia y buscar una respuesta. Son seres vivos, pero la interrogante más atrevida es si los seres vivos no inertes como los bosques y los ríos tienen derecho a existir. ¿Tenemos derecho solamente nosotros, los humanos? ¿Tienen derecho solo los animales? ¿Tienen el derecho en sentido general? Yo creo, y aquí concluyo, que la armonía obtenida en millones de años nos obliga a entender que todos nos necesitamos. Urge civilizar el Estado de Derecho que hemos creado. Hablar de energía, combustibles fósiles y gases de efecto invernadero sin que veamos la arista o la cara de los derechos fundamentales del ser humano no tendría ningún sentido, pero tampoco lo tendría sin atender a los derechos de los demás seres que habitan en el planeta. En Colombia, Ecuador, Francia, la Unión Europea y en otras naciones hemos visto fiscales, jueces, abogados, ONGs que nos guían con nuevas normas constitucionales, legales y jurisprudenciales que reconocen derechos a otros seres, que combaten la visión antropocéntrica hacia una visión más ecocéntrica, que destierran la visión utilitarista de cómo vemos a los demás seres del planeta y que defienden la armonía casi perfecta lograda en millones de años en nuestra casa común. Valdría la pena seguir evolucionando en nuestro concepto del Estado de Derecho e ir más allá, avanzar hacia una visión menos antropocéntrica y realmente más humana. Como decía San Francisco de Asís en sus cánticos, entender que existe una relación fraterna entre todos los seres del planeta y que trabajar en esa dirección nos haría mejor personas. Muchas gracias.
Muchísimas gracias, Francisco. It's very interesting to have all these contributions from all your very special fields or regions or countries. And it's hard to limit the time for these high-level experts we have in this panel, unfortunately, because all of them could tell us a lot more. But we have started 2 minutes later, so we have some minutes left, I would say, to negotiate with you, and we are really happy to have your questions. Do you have any questions for our experts in the panel? Please.
Buenas tardes para todos y bienvenidos a nuestro país. Nosotros somos abogadas del Ministerio de Medio Ambiente y Recursos Naturales en la provincia de Espaillat. Y como muchos saben, compartimos frontera con un país totalmente deforestado. Y es una gran preocupación para nosotros porque la gran mayoría de ellos han emigrado a nuestro país. Pero mucho mayor es la preocupación en consonancia con la panelista allá de la esquina, que me encantó su exposición. Nos preocupa mucho la falta de educación que hay en el ser humano sobre lo que se refiere al medio ambiente y los recursos naturales. Por lo que mi pregunta va directa a lo siguiente. ¿Consideran ustedes que la educación de nuestros países debe de estar regida y en virtud de lo que hoy vivimos, la deforestación, los desmontes de los árboles y los bosques? ¿Consideran ustedes que en nuestra educación se debe de implementar lo que es la educación ambiental como ente de protección al medio ambiente? Muchas gracias.
Does anybody want to answer?
Ok, muchas gracias por la pregunta. Yo considero que efectivamente la legislación, y aquí estamos abogados que hemos trabajado desde el sector privado y sector público en la construcción de política pública, debe ser concebida de manera integral. Y sin duda los jóvenes, los niños, los jóvenes y en general la academia debe participar en una construcción de concienciación, como lo decía quien me precedió, de esa convivencia permanente entre el ser humano y el ecosistema. Y sin duda la respuesta es que sí, que es necesario que se empiece a construir ciudadanía desde temprana edad y que esa ciudadanía esté concebida desde una integralidad. Y ahí viene el trabajo de la sociedad civil, de la academia, de la abogacía y del sector público en trabajar en conjunto para crear esas políticas públicas en temas de educación que se centren mucho en el conocimiento y el respeto a la naturaleza.
Muchas gracias. Yeah, maybe one final question, because otherwise we want to continue with the next panel, but you was first.
Sí, buenas tardes, Narciso Vargas, del sector cooperativo de la República Dominicana. Narciso Vargas. Sí, la consulta es hacia el doctor Francisco Domínguez Brito. Él ha enfatizado en que nosotros tenemos una visión antropocéntrica del derecho y que es preferible tener una visión ecocéntrica. En ese sentido, me interesaría saber, como un tema nuevo y de ruido académico, cuál sería la ruta metodológica para nosotros tratar de incidir en que nos veamos todos en función del derecho que nos corresponde como especie viva.
Creo que hay que cambiar la visión del actual Estado de Derecho que tenemos, entendiendo el Estado de Derecho por ese conjunto de normas que giran solamente alrededor nuestro como seres humanos y pasar a una visión mucho más amplia, donde todos los seres dentro del planeta, de una manera u otra, en el marco de una racionalidad, tenemos derechos y donde no es posible la vida del ser humano si no es alrededor de los demás seres que integran el planeta.
muchísimas gracias. Thank you very much for all of you that you joined the panel Environment and Energy, and all. Thank you for all of the panelists, the expertise of your contributions. It was a pleasure to have all of you here, and that you contributed in this very valuable manner. And thank you very much, and I wish you all a very nice afternoon and a very great time in this wonderful island.